My name is Ryan Hunt. I'm the defensive line coach at Lee County High School. Um, Go over my background. I'm 27 years old. I started as the JV defensive line coach at Scotland County High School between 2015 and 2017, and I would help on varsity when the playoffs started, and my role grew bigger and bigger each year, and I really learned a lot from that job. Um, we went to a state championship at Scotland and lost. Our star running back, Zamir White, got hurt in the playoffs, and he's actually the running back at Georgia this year. My second stop was as a defensive line and outside linebacker coach and recruiting coordinator at Fairmont High School in North Carolina. I stayed there one season, helped that school get back to the playoffs after the previous year. They did not make the playoffs. This past year, I was a defensive line coach at Lee County High School, and I'm still currently in that position, hoping to start football workouts next week. Education, I went to Riesel High School. I guess that doesn't mean nothing to y'all, but they're a big-time football program in North Carolina. Uh, got my physical education degree at UNCP, and be finished with my sports administration master's from Liberty University in a few weeks. So I'm excited to have that. Some of my mentors in coaching, and I suggest y'all look them up and follow them on Twitter. I mean, they're amazing coaches. One's Richard Bailey. He's the head football coach at Scotland County High School. He's been to 6 state championships as a head football coach in North Carolina in the biggest classification we got, which is 4A. Phenomenal coach. He calls offense mainly. Great to get RPOs, run game from him. My second mentor I would like to talk about is Corey Johnson. He was the defensive coordinator at Scotland County, and I coached under him for 3 years, and he's the head coach at Clinton High School. He's a great young and up-and-coming coach. I believe he will be the best coach in North Carolina very soon. Also, Andre Jacobs. He's a defense coordinator at Lee County now, and he's helped me take my coaching ability and knowledge of the game to a different level. Why I got into coaching. I mainly got into coaching because over here, football does a lot for our kids, helping them stay out of trouble, help them keep their grades up. And I got a passion for helping kids grow as men. And I love seeing them get scholarships to play football on the next level and for them to live out their dream. So I just love helping the kids. And I also got a competitive side, and I like to win as a coach too, don't get me wrong. Core principles for me as a defensive line coach for my defensive linemen. I want each player to be able to move and bend well. I do not play a lot of just big, heavy set kids that do not move well. Pretty much everyone on the defensive line that I've coached at my whole time all can move and run very well. And what I mean by bend well, pass protection, they're able to rush low and get under offensive linemen who most of the time are a little bit heavier set and don't bend as well. They must be gap sound in the pass and the run. So in our defense, everybody's responsible for a gap pre-snap. And if they're not disciplined enough to stay in that gap, control that gap, then we're just going to have to find someone, either coach that player up better or find someone else that will be disciplined enough. Must squeeze and spill. It's the most important thing I work on, most important thing I coach. We do it every day at practice. We squeeze whatever offensive lineman we're working to, we squeeze him to keep the offensive lineman off our linebackers. That's what our whole defense is based on. And we spill all pullers. So if a guard and tackle is pulling on power and counter, we're going to spill him, get underneath him, wrong arm him. So if our defensive lineman is lined up on the left side and he gets a puller, he's going to wrong arm with his outside shoulder, which would be his left shoulder. If he's to the right, if he lines up to the right of the ball, he's a wrong arm with his right shoulder. Okay. And if y'all got questions anytime, be free to answer them. Another thing I'll probably work on the second most at practice is be able to handle and defeat double teams. I think that's very important. I think if you can squeeze a spill and handle double teams, everything else will take care of itself. So in my philosophy, last year I coached varsity and JV defensive line at Lee County, which I love to do. I love to be able to coach both. Um, Pretty much, we wasn't the most talented group, and it was my first year with them, and that's pretty much all we practiced was lining up correctly, squeezing and spilling, and be able to handle and defeat double teams. Yeah, it might not have been as exciting as working on pass rush drills, doing one-on-ones and stuff like that, but it helped us win ball games. We went undefeated on JV, and I think our D-line had a lot to do with that. Also, run to the ball. In our program, we talk about having no lows, which means you're basically jogging to the ball or not giving effort every single play. So on film, we'll count lows from each game, and then we'll have a period where we do up downs for each loaf a player has. Another core principle: I'm gonna stop the run first. You can probably get that from earlier statements, but I'm gonna stop the run first as a defensive line coach. I believe that's the biggest thing at the high school level is a defensive line needs to be focused on stopping the run, because if you can stop the run at our level, you're gonna be very successful. Um, in the past, most time it'll take care of itself. You need to be able to rush the passer, but if you can't stop the run, you're not gonna be very good anyway. uh, Over here, I think it's imperative that we get to know our kids and build a relationship with them. Every time you talk, if you're coaching young players, I think every talk you do does not need to be about football. Each player is different, but I think you need to get to know your players outside the game of football, see what their interests are, stuff like that. And I talk to my players differently. Like different players respond to different styles of coaching. Some you can yell and fuss at, and then some you really can't yell at that they respond to taking them to the side and talk with them, and they just respond to coaching in different ways. Um, I think it's important to know your interest of your players outside of football. So when you get some downtime, you can talk to them about that and show them that you really care about them as people and not just as a football player. In 2019, we had a 15-1 record. We lost in the 3AA state championship game in North Carolina. In those 16 games, we had 107 tackles for a loss on the season. We averaged 6.7 a game. We had 2 shutouts on the year. We averaged giving up 12.8 points a game for the entire season and 17.8 in the playoffs. On average, we gave up 3.5 yards per carry, which is pretty good. The stat would have been better, but 2 teams we played that we beat pretty bad did not post any stats, so we couldn't count those games. And we only gave up 4 100-yard rushers, and we played a lot of run-heavy teams, so that was a pretty good accomplishment for us. Practice and scheme. How I approach out of season compared to in season. A lot of out of season stuff. I like working on doing hoop drills, so kids are able to bend the corner better on pass rush. I do a lot of bag drills. I don't know if y'all have ever seen them, but I do a lot of bag drills, help with my players' footwork and their ability to move side to side. And I think it also helps them get their knees up. Some of the drills we do with the bags, it helps them helps their stride and be able to run faster. In season, I mean, we got to work on what is pertaining to the team we're playing. So if they pass the ball 80% of the time, we got to work a lot of pass rush stuff, keeping the quarterback in the pocket, that sort of thing. If they're double teaming everybody on the line of scrimmage, we got to work a lot of double team drills. If they're a heavy gap scheme team running power, counter, trap, we got to work a lot of squeeze and spill. So a lot of that agility, athletic type drills I have to take out during the season if we don't have time, because we got to prepare for each opponent individually. Normal practice for us, we usually get about 15 minutes to 20 minutes of individual time. And I always start off with get-offs, have my defensive lineman in a stance, working on get-offs. And then we'll go to some sort of change of direction after get-offs. And then normally we'll work squeeze and spill at least twice a week, we'll work double team drills. Sometimes we'll get the offensive line to come over there and service us in that capacity, or some backup defensive linemen to serve us in double teams. So my starters and main defensive linemen are not having to block their own defensive linemen and try to get reps, um, defeat double teams. Another thing I think is very key in our success last year was play bands. So basically, we had 4 columns and 15 plays on each of our play bands. So we could get into 60 different fronts, basically 60 different combinations of what our defense could run. So each week, no matter what the defense threw at us, we had got our kids prepared to play any sort of technique, whether it be a 2-eye, a 3, a 9, a 5, as far as the defensive line. And we could basically get into any front and know how to run it, so we could be able to adjust and stop any run game we've seen. That helped us out a lot in the playoffs. We saw some unique offenses in the playoffs. One team ran like a T formation, 2 tight ends, 3 backs, no receivers, and we was able to get in a different front, game planned them well, knew where they was running the ball, and we had a lot of success. So I definitely think I could talk with anybody after that if you want to learn more about the play bands. It helped us immensely, and our kids are not out there thinking about what they need to do. We could call head 11. That head was one of our columns, and we call head 11, and the kids just look at their band and they see what they have to do that play. And it was and the columns are broke down for each position, so everybody individually knows what they're doing. This is our base front. It's an under front. We got a bandit that's in a 5 technique outside the tackle. This bandit is pretty much an outside linebacker that will play defensive line, our base set. He's usually the most athletic person in our defense, because sometimes we're getting a 3-man front or getting a stack look, and this bandit will have some coverage responsibilities in some of our defense. So it's basically like a hybrid outside linebacker, defensive end that's a really good athlete that can play anything. Our tackle is a 3 technique most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, outside the guard. And way I do, my tackle is always going to be very athletic. You might think, oh, he's a defensive tackle, he needs to be a bigger body. It's really not how I coach. You'll see later in the presentation why I want that tackle to be athletic. Last year, our tackle was really athletic, played on the basketball team at our high school, so he could really run. Our nose gets in a 2-eye inside shade of the guard. We never get into a shade on the center. We believe that the guards pretty much tell you what to key on for the run play. So we always get in a 2-eye, and we really want to protect our inside linebackers from guards running up and being able to block them. So we always keep our noses in a 2-eye, and they're looking to work to the inside shoulder of that guard and try to keep him off of linebackers. That's a big key for us, is letting them run free and be able to run sideline to sideline and make tackles. Our defensive end, usually another athletic position, but he's always on the line. Sometimes we'll stand him up and actually invert this defensive line and stand him up in an 8 tech or something like that and let him rush from depth or outside linebacker look. But for the most part, he's going to line up in a 5 or a 4-eye and play with his hand in the dirt. How we game plan to stop the run. Do y'all have huddle? Could y'all give me some feedback on that?
Yeah, we use huddle a lot.
Okay, cool. So this could help y'all out. All right. So I spend a lot of time on huddle, breaking down each little piece of my opponent. Spend a lot of time. Right now, I'm blessed to be the Apex coordinator, which basically I log kids on to a program, and they make up classes. So I really don't have to teach nothing. So I spend a lot of time on huddle, breaking films down. So this is the huddle columns we focus on when breaking down the offense. We label each play what hash they're on, whether it's in the left, whether they're in the middle, or whether they're in the right. Next, we'll break down the formation. Whether it's 4 wide receivers, 2 backs, tight end, that sort of thing. Then we'll look at down and distance. A lot of teams will have a key on what they do on first down, what type of plays they run on first down, third and short, third and long. You can look at all that stuff and be able to figure out what a team is going to do in certain situations. Backfield is pretty much, let's say we're in 2x2, which we call ace, 4 wide receivers, 2 on each side. Backfield is what we label where the running back is in relation to the quarterback. So on huddle, we'll put a TBR if the tailback is to the right of the quarterback. If he's to the left, we'll put a TBL, or if he's behind the quarterback, we'll put pistol. I think talking to Coach earlier on Twitter told me y'all see a lot of 20 personnel. Now, if that's in the shotgun, we'll be like tailback right, fullback right, if he lines up as an H-back, or tailback right, fullback left. When you label these backfields, or if they're in an I formation, when you label these backfields, especially in the shotgun, where the running back is or where the running back and H-back is, and you run a report of what plays they do when in certain backfield alignments, you will be amazed how much how you can get a key on what they're doing out of each set. Personnel, that's basically we label it 10, 11, 21. Basically 10 personnel is 1 back, 4 wide receivers. 21, first number is the running back, so it'll be 2. The 1 will stand for the tight end. If it's 22, it's 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, that sort of thing. We labeled that. And for example, when we played one team last year, they was in 20 personnel. They ran the ball almost every play. When they was in 10 personnel, they threw the ball almost every play. So we're able to pick up on little things like that to know, so we know how to line up our defense in sort of situations and what coverages and everything to run. Play that's pretty simple, whether it's counter, power, a flood route, some type of flood concept, RPO, we label what play it is. The strength, basically we either label it right or left. For us, we label the strength as whichever side has the most receivers. So if you got 2 wide receivers to the left and a tight end receiver to the right, we're going to label the strength to the passing strength where there's more speed. Now, I've seen some coaches, they label it to like where the run strength will be. In that situation, the tight end and receiver would probably be the run strength because you got an extra blocker that way. But we always label it to the speed or to the passing strength. Next thing we do is play direction. I think this helps us a lot. It's either right or left, or we don't put nothing if it's the middle. For example, sometimes you can get a right-handed quarterback and he'll throw the ball 70% of the time to the right just because it's easier and his eyes naturally go that way. Last one we do is bench in a way. Let me explain this one to you. So let's say your quarterback's lined up, and if he pointed to the right, it would be to your bench. If he pointed to the left, it would be away from your bench. A lot of offensive coordinators, especially like pass plays, screens, or really anything, they're going to run the plays towards their bench if you label it and look at it, because they naturally want to be able to see what's going on with the play. If they call it away from their bench, they won't be able to see it as well. So they have a high tendency of running plays to their bench. So when y'all in huddle scouting an opponent, I highly suggest you add that column bench and away and label that, and then run the reports on huddle so you can see what teams are doing. And if we got any reports from last year on opponents, I will show them to y'all. I think we had to delete them for storage, but I would try to look for them. Game plan continued. Each week we check the stats of the players, see who's producing for them. Um, we'll go over alignment. We'll have a form recognition period and make sure we're lining up right to each formation and getting the fronts that we want to in practice so that we're better prepared for Friday. We got another thing. We pass out a packet each week with that stats, the formations, and their best players. And we do a thing called like Waldos, which is basically the other team's worst players we can take advantage of and get a mismatch on. It's fun for the kids. They call them that, and we have fun with it. And we also look at their best players. Usually we do a best lineman and the best one or two skill players that we really need to focus on. Also, you need to know what the other team's quarterback is capable of. Let's say the quarterback's on the left hash and the outside receiver to the right runs a deep out. A lot of quarterbacks can't make that throw. Or if they're on the left hash and they got trips right, a lot of high school quarterbacks not going to be able to make a throw all the way to that outside receiver. So just know what the quarterback is capable of and basically base your defense around that and other things we've talked about. Study the OL. A lot of times offensive linemen can give away stuff. Biggest example is a lot of offensive linemen, for example, put their hand down when it's a run, but a lot of times when it's a pass, they'll have their hand up. So just look for little tendencies like that when you're watching film and looking at the offensive lineman. And then another couple of things, let's say they're going to run power right. A lot of teams we play when the guards are going to pull, they'll get deeper in the backfield and give it away. So we teach our players to look for that, and we can look for that ourselves so we can take advantage of that situation. And then another thing I tell my defensive linemen, look at the pressure the offensive linemen have on their hand. So if they don't got a lot of pressure on their hand, which means they're not putting a lot of weight on their hand, they're probably pulling or about to pass block. If they got a lot of weight on their hand, they do got a lot of weight on their hand, they're probably going to block down or some sort of base block coming right at you. Also, you need to know your players and put them in the best situation to be successful. Last year we had a kid that played inside, nose guard and tackle for us, but wasn't a huge kid, but he was athletic. So we tried not to put him in a lot of positions where he was going to get double teamed a lot or they was going to run the ball right at him. We tried to put him in situations where he could chase the pull or just run and be a ball player. We try to not put him in situations where he was just going to get double teamed a lot. This is a big topic for me that I love to do. I love to talk about with other coaches. If you looked at the base front earlier, a 3 is outside the guard for us. That's how we label it. A 4-eye would be inside the right or left tackle, and 4s for us would be head up on the tackle. And we like having 3s and mainly 4 eyes to the same side as the running back. And let me explain this. So if the running back is to the right of the quarterback, he'll be on the left side of the defense. So a lot of times we like having a 3 or a 4-eye lined up in front of the running back because a lot of times teams are going to run power and counter and pull that guard away from the running back, and the running back go across the formation to get the ball. So we put a 4-eye or 3 there to be able to chase that pull, and it helps us get a lot of tackles for lost and helps us get big negative plays on first and second down that put the offenses in bad situations come later in the downs. We'll talk about this. Helps have athletic and quick DL. Helps you play smaller DL and save the true best big kids for offensive line, which is the most important position to me is offensive line. So we need to be able to save our big kids for OL. So sometimes we'll play smaller DL that are athletic so that we can do this. And if they're athletic and got quick twitch, be able to get off the ball fast, how we set them up to be able to chase pulls, certain things in the run game, they'll thrive at and be able to make a lot of plays. For a four tech in that situation, if he's head up on the tackle, we will have him slant to B gap. So if that guard does pull, he's able to get on that guard's hip and chase him. And that's basically how I teach it. I want the 3 eyes, 4 eyes, and 4s to basically get on the inside hip of that guard and let that guard take them to where the running back's going to go, and then come off of that guard and make a play. All right. 5 techs, they have to sit and squeeze for the quarterback. So even if the tackle pulls, they have to squeeze because they got C gap. And if the quarterback was to pull it, let's say they run some counter option and the quarterback just pulls it, 5 tech is responsible for the quarterback in that situation. And he has to squeeze the tackle and sit and be able to tackle that quarterback. Unless we game plan it and we're telling that 5 tech just to go ahead and go, and we'll have a inside linebacker scrape for quarterback. But other than that, the 5 tech has to squeeze and sit, which is the defensive lineman outside the tackle. Just a little sneak peek. Try to get your outside hand when defensive linemen try to get their outside hand on the inside hip of the guard that was pulling, and let him take you play, like I said earlier. And said that earlier, leads to a lot of tackles for loss and gets offenses in unfavorable distances on second and third down, which can force them into passing situations that we can call up blitzes and other sorts of things, and really help us be a great defense. Not only does it work on counter and power, but also can work on inside zone, because on inside zone, that backside guard is not going to block a 3 technique or 4 eye. They're going to hope that tackle can come scoop him, and so that the guard can go up to linebacker. So it helps to have athletic DL that can squeeze that guard and be able to run flat and be able to make a play. All right, real quick, I'm going to go to my huddle, try to play some plays where you can see this. All right, this is last year's varsity film. Watch number 50 right here. His guard is going to pull, and he's going to tackle this running back that's in a pistol in the backfield. Let me go back to the huddle labeling stuff real quick. So right here, they got a fullback to the right of the quarterback and a running back in pistol. So we would label that in our backfield combo column, pistol, fullback, right. Just a little, just to explain that a little bit better and give y'all an example. All right. Let that run back one more time. So they're running power. They're running power to the right. This guard pulls, and they have nobody to account for my 3 technique. So he's basically, I would like him to stay a little bit flatter down the line of scrimmage, but he's a excellent football player, quick twitch. He's going to App State. He's at App State now, playing football on a full scholarship. So he's a very talented player. He's able to use his athleticism, get right in the backfield, and make that play for a loss on first down. All right. Let you watch it from our end zone view real quick. Actually, looks like he's in a 4 eye, so it looks like he's inside the tackle right here, which we get in a lot of times. We'll get into a tight front and have a 0 and 2 4 eyes. So no matter if they run a gap scheme, either way, we have a player that can chase the pool and help us in that situation. Let's say if we get in 2 4 eyes, have 4 eye right here, 4 eye right here. So it don't matter if either one of the guards pull, we have someone that can chase. You see that guard pulls, he goes flat down the line, makes the tackle. Start that play over. Back here, we got our 44s playing 3 technique back here. His guard's going to pull, and another tackle on the backfield. Guard pulls, he runs flat down the line, makes a play. There's no one to really account for him, and those tackles are not going to be athletic enough if you teach them to chase, stay flat, and get off the ball fast. The tackles are not going to be fast enough to scoop them. So unless they insert someone, and a lot of times it's hard for the center to block back all the way on a 3 or far eye if they're very athletic. So I suggest you take advantage of that, putting 4 eyes and 3s away from where you think they're going to run the ball and have them chase pools if you're facing gap scheme or inside zone teams. It's just another view. Gets off the ball fast. Kid's only about 205 pounds, 210 pounds, and offensive lineman's 300 pounds, so he's able to get off the ball a lot faster, and there's really just no one to block him. Now this is an example of inside zone right here. So no guard is pulling, but this tackle right – can y'all see my cursor?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this
You
tackle
pointed
right
on the
here.
right guard, right? Right guard, right tackle.
Yes, sir. So this right tackle is not very athletic, about 300 pounds. My 3 technique right now is probably about 250 pounds, a little bit more athletic than this kid. So he's not able to scoop him, and this guard's blocking down to that nose and trying to get to work to that inside linebacker. So there's really no one that can block our tackle right now. So he's able to get hands on that guard and get right back there for inside zone. Very simple, very easy way to get a lot of tackles for losses, in my opinion. It's worked everywhere I've coached, and I'll continue to do it until it doesn't work anymore and teams find an answer for it consistently. And this is just an inside zone view. So that guard blocks down. That tackle's not athletic to scoop him up and get hands on him. So he just gets back there and makes a play. This is another example of just they're running a play away from this kid and no one accounts for him because they're like, oh, it's a defensive tackle. He's away from the play. We ain't got to worry about blocking him. We'll try to get everybody on the side of the play. But if you play athletic defensive lineman, it really puts a stress on the offense because it's hard to account for everybody. And if they don't, your players will be able to run fast and get to the ball. Just another example, like having a 3 or 4 eye away from the play. No one accounts for him. You got an athletic kid there, and he makes a play to put your defense in a better situation going forward that drive. It's just the end zone view. All right, so let's talk through this. You remember earlier in the they're running GT counter where the tackle and guard pulls. You know, earlier I said unless we tell them different, our 5 technique that's outside the tackle needs to squeeze and sit for quarterback. All right, but this running back right here has probably got about 25 Division I offers. To Florida, LSU, all those type schools. He's a big-time player. And this quarterback right here is not a big runner. So we saw that from film, and we know that every time this tackle and guard pulls, he's going to hand the ball off to this very talented running back, and he's not going to pull the ball, and he's not much of a runner. So we could tell him instead of squeezing and sitting for the quarterback if he pulls it, that just go ahead and go. And if that quarterback, for some reason, pulls the ball and runs, we'll adjust. But we're not worried about that quarterback, judging by our game plan. We're not worried about that quarterback running the ball. So we sold out to stop this running back. So we told this defensive end that he could chase that tackle and guard for this game and be able to make plays. So watch that again. Tackle guard pulls. He realizes that. he gets as flat as possible and makes a tackle at the line of scrimmage. Watch an end zone view real quick. This is also a third-round playoff game. This is a very good team in our bracket. Okay, we'll come back and look at this later. I wanted to show you the same thing for our JV team, just so you don't think, oh, he just got really talented players and they're making plays. So this kid right here, he's probably about 5'7", 170 pounds, very fast, quick twitch. Is a great JV defensive lineman for us. He's going to be right here. They're going to run a play away from him. He's just way too fast for JV offensive lineman that we played this year, and he made a ton of plays. So they run a gap scheme away from him. He's lined up in a 3, and he's able to chase that play, and that tackle's not scooping him or worried about blocking him. So it's just an easy way to make plays. And it worked really well at the JV level because those offensive linemen are probably undercoached and underdeveloped, so they really do not know how to handle it. And the coaching isn't as good if you playing in a level. Top of the screen, we're going to have our defensive end in a 4-eye. Go back to that. Defensive end right here is going to be in a 4-eye. That's our bandit standing up. That's like an outside linebacker, defensive end type. So we got him in a 4-eye right now, responsible for B gap. So he don't have to worry about any quarterback pulls or nothing. If they're lined up in the B gap, they can just chase the pull without having any other responsibility. So they run power to the other side. He's able to tackle in the backfield. It's a thing I really stress on for our defensive linemen. Is being able to chase pulls, run to the ball, defeat double teams, and squeeze and spill. If like you do all them things, you're gonna be pretty successful. Another example, that small 3 technique we got, they run power to the other side, and he has to slow down because the play develops so slow just to be able to tackle that running back. So just another great example of how this can work, having a 3 technique or a 4-eye away from where you think they're going to run the ball, or to the same size as running back. Just another example. 3 technique, they run power away, counter away. No one counts for him. The tackle is not athletic enough to scoop him, and we just make another play in the backfield. I just want to ask y'all a question real quick. Do y'all ever see like heavy sets by the offense on the goal line or in short yardage situations?
Yes, sometimes we saw a team did that last year we faced in the playoffs.
Okay, so I want to talk about this heavy set real quick because we used it in 2 games in the playoffs, and absolutely both of the teams was averaging over 300 rushing yards a game, and we held both of those teams to under 100 rushing yards running this front. So we brought in an extra defensive lineman in this set. We had 2 eyes that were keying on the inside shoulder of the guards. I talked about earlier, we do not do a shade on the center because most of the time the center is just blocking back on a defensive lineman anyway. He's not going to go to linebackers. So we're focused on keeping our inside linebackers clean. So we had 2 eyes. Then we had 2 5s outside the tackle, squeezing down real hard. And then 2 9s versus the teams that ran a tight end. And they also was squeezing down real hard. And then we played man or cover 3 behind this. And I have a lot of film from our playoffs last year talking about this. A couple schools I was at before, our heavy front versus some sets like this would be a head up, 0, and then like 2 3s and 2 5s. But this front having 2 players and 8 gaps, and then 4 players pretty much squeezing down all the gaps, it works so much better than having a head up 0 and 2 3s in a heavy front like that. Um, you're almost wasting a player if you just got a 0 head up on the center and just bullying him and just lets the center is just awful and he'll mess up the snap if you do that. So I want to show you him on this real quick. All right. This is the second round of playoffs. This school the week before ran for like 400 rushing yards on the team, and we beat this team 33-0, running this front the whole game until they got in the spread. So real quick, you see the 3 backs in the backfield, 7 men on the line of scrimmage. So we got our 9 technique, 5 technique outside the tackle, our 2 eyes, a 5, and another 9. And another thing about this team, we was able to pick up what side they like to run the ball to the most. So in this situation, we have our 2 FBS commits on the same side because when we watch film, we knew they like to run the ball to the right mostly, percentage-wise. So we put our 2 best players to the right and made them do something they was uncomfortable with. And that's another example. Having athletic defensive linemen that can chase guards and tackles. We made a good play right there in the backfield. So you basically just need to teach your defensive lineman rules on how to play any technique along front and make your defense be able to be flexible to get in multiple different type of fronts so that you can keep the offense unbalanced and on their heels, and you can play against anybody and do well, any type of offense, any type of team. It's just an inside view. Now, 50 didn't do, I'm trying to go back there. 50 did not do a great job right here squeezing and getting underneath the pullers. So right now, he's on the left side of the line of scrimmage, like I said earlier. So he should be getting underneath these pullers, wrong arming them with his outside shoulder. But he did not do a great job squeezing. He did not get underneath the pull as well as I would like. So he stayed outside, but luckily number 44 was able to chase and make the play. But he should have been getting underneath that pull, that first puller y'all saw there, number 74. Now, we treat running backs, fullbacks the same way. If they're coming to block a defensive lineman, we go underneath them and spill that pull as well and treat that as a puller. Same team. We're in that same front. We make a play. I really don't think they had any answer. No one had played this front against them all year, and I really just don't think they had an answer for it. And plus, our kids were coached up well, and they were talented. See, even right there, number 50 played that wrong again and got in the wrong gap. But this front was giving them so many problems. See that offensive line right there, short of the block, and we was able to shut this down pretty quick. And us having to play an extra DL with injuries and depth concerns, that kid right there didn't play DL all year until this game. He was a backup offensive lineman, and we was able to put him in. He did his job very well. Same front, same team. They had no answer for it. I'm going to skip a few. I don't want to keep y'all long. I'm going to skip a few to another team we played and did the same front too. All right, this is a 4th-round game. Formation a little bit different, but we use the same front because they had no wide receivers, and so we stayed in our heavy front for 2 weeks prior. This is a 4th round of the playoffs for us. So if we win this game, we went to the state championship, which we did end up winning this game and going to the state championship. We used the same front versus them. 2 eyes, 2 5s, and 2 9s. And we had a lot of success. And the kid they had back there taking a snap, he committed to E1 school to play running back as well. So this was a very good team. It was fun. See, number 10 go back and watch that. Number 10 did an excellent job in a 9 technique, squeezing down and basically chasing that ball flat down the line. Watch number 10 right here. Did a great job getting hands on that tight end with that fullback and running flat down the line, helping get in on a tackle. And we also had a very big key on this team as well. So wherever that you saw that big offensive lineman in the backfield, wherever he shifted to is where they ran the ball to, and we knew they liked to shift a lot in this formation, so we went ahead and picked our 2 best players, 10 and 50, on this side where we knew they was going to run the ball to the majority of the time, and it really threw their offense out of schedule and out of whack. Us being able to know where they was going to like to run the ball to and putting our 2 best players there. All right, real quick, I'm gonna try to find an example of a report. Hopefully, we still got it up. All right, this is an example of one report I'd like to show you real quick. So in this report, we included what formation it was. So horns right basically means 2 running backs or a tailback and a fullback. So we break it down by formation, and then we broke it down by backfield, play type, runner pass, and what offensive play they ran. So when they was in horns right, tailback left, fullback left, and they ran the ball, they ran inside zone twice, jet sweep read once, jet sweep once, power once. Going down, when they was in horns right with the tailback to the right and the fullback to the right, they ran inside zone 80% of the time and ran QB counter. And that's something they didn't do out of the other formation. Let's see if I can get this to scroll down. And we labeled it to each backfield, so we're able to see the differences. And this is we call this I formation. So they was under center in this situation, but the fullback was the quarterback was under center, but the fullback was to the right. And we labeled this to each formation, each backfield type. Now this is horns left. So all that above was horns to the right, which basically means 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers to the right. And if we go horns left, that's 2 running backs in the backfield and 2 receivers to the left. And we broke this down by each formation, each backfield alignment, run and pass, so we could really key on what they're doing when they're in certain looks. Trying to get the Zoom get back up. But I got. If y'all like to ask some questions, feel free to. Look at my last slide real quick. This is my contact information. Uh, phone number is right there. There's my email. If you want me to send you maybe some resources or anything, feel free to take my email and email me at any time. But the easiest way to contact me is through Twitter. I'm on Twitter a lot. My Twitter name is DLineCoach78. I encourage y'all all to follow me and just reach out anytime you want to. We can talk football, defense or offense. I feel like I know both sides of the ball pretty well. I study a lot on offense, so if you want to talk about something other than defense, feel free to reach out and talk to me anytime. I'm down to talk football, no matter when it is. Um, so, Coach, that's all I got right now.
Yeah, Coach. Thank you very much for that great presentation. I think we could really learn a lot, and yeah, I wish I had that idea of two eyes and of 2-5 techniques against that heavy formation last year. Um, but if you like to, I have three different questions. The one is on practice, on the
Uh-huh.
how you practice. The second one on the spill technique, and the third one is on pass rush.
Okay.
Maybe the first one, when you have team periods or doing team in your practice, where do you stand and coach the defensive line?
Um, I always stand right behind the linebackers, so I can really get a good look at them, and really coach them up well. I feel like anywhere else I'm standing is not. I don't get to see as a full picture, but by doing that, you got to be alert and stay out of the offense's way or the linebacker's way. And a lot of times I get into the other kids' way, but I feel like that's the best position on the field to be able to watch and make sure your defensive lineman is getting in the right gap, playing their techniques right. So I suggest put some cleats on, get right behind the linebackers, and watch your DL right there in team period, and
Hmm.
do your best to stay out their way, stay out the linebackers' way. But I like standing right there, and I can see all four of my defensive linemen uh, well better than I can on Friday night standing on the sideline. So that's what I do.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And the next question is about the spill technique. You talked about that you spill a lot, and how do you technically teach the spill technique?
Um, I can actually send you a little bit of drill tape I have on that. But basically, we work a squeeze and spill drill. So we'll have one defensive lineman. We'll have a offensive lineman lined up in front of him, and he'll be shaded to the left or the right. And when I say hit, he's basically squeezing that offensive lineman down. If he's on the left side of that offensive lineman working to the right, he'll have his right hand on the shoulder and his left hand on that offensive lineman's hip, squeezing him as hard as he can. And then I'll have another kid with a hand shield wrapping around like it's a pull, and our defensive linemen have to work on getting their outside shoulder underneath that puller and him getting inside that puller. So if he's lined up to the left, he's getting low and getting inside that puller with his left shoulder. If he's lined up to the right, he's squeezing and then coming off of that offensive lineman, running flat down the line and getting his right shoulder underneath that puller. It's just based off where they're lined up on
Hmm.
the play.
Okay, and where do you set your feet the when you spill and bring your outside shoulder into the blocker?
We keep squeezing until we recognize pull, and then we come off, and we pretty much just get inside that puller any way we can. It's really uh, no certain feet technique or anything like that. If I heard you correctly.
Hmm. Okay, I got you. Um, yeah, if you have time, I have a third question. Um, I think there are a lot of information on how to coach pass rush for the defensive ends, for edge rushes. But how do you coach a pass rush for the interior lineman? Do you have some tips for that topic?
A lot of times what helps us pass rushing is we play the smaller, more athletic guys who are able to get lower than the offensive line. And we also do a lot of ripping, just ripping past the offensive linemen, staying lower than them, and they're not able to bend very well because they're taller, bigger kids. So that works well with our smaller interior defensive linemen. We'll also work on bull rush, and then out of the bull rush, we'll have a counter where we basically try to snatch that offensive lineman on his face. If we bull them really good and they get back on their heels of their feet and they're off balance, we'll go ahead and snatch them to the ground and
Mhm.
snatch them away from what gap we're supposed to be in. And we do a lot of swipe, which is basically a two-hand move where you're taking both of your hands, and it's kind of like a windshield wiper on a car. You're basically trying to swipe their hands away and turn into offensive linemen's shoulders really quick, and flipping your hips and trying to get it past them before they can retrace and reset their pass lane.
Mhm. Yeah, that are three very good keys. We can definitely work on because we struggle a little bit with our interior pass rush. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Okay.
Um, yeah, do we have any other questions from the coaches in the chat? Yeah, if not, coach, I really like to thank you for taking the time to help us get better. I think you presented some great ideas, some great film of your really well coached defensive line. I was impressed how they played from a three technique into the backfield, and I think that's a point we should all work on to set up the defensive line and set up the tone up front to stop the run. So you definitely help us to make the game better today. So thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. And if you ever want to reach out to me and talk, you said your season was starting in the fall. If
Yeah.
you want any advice or you want my opinion on anything
Mhm.
when you start your season, just hit me up on Twitter and I'll be glad to help because we don't start to the spring and I got a lot of free time. I'll be glad to help some more if I can.
Okay, absolutely. I will stay in contact with you and send you some film. For example, if you like to see some German football.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, coach. So thank you very much, and yeah, stay safe. Stay safe. Have a nice day, and we we will talk soon. Have a
All
nice
right,
day,
sounds
coach.
good.
Goodbye.
It's